It's Tuesday, May 4, and time for your Barbados Today Evening News Update. The government orders a major cleanup at Bees Recycling at King Garden, St. Thomas. Word of this from Home Affairs Minister Wilfred Abrams, who said the plant has become an environmental hazard. He told reporters that Bees has failed to correct concerns raised by Chief Fire Officer Errol Maynard back in August 2019 about the large mound of unsorted, unrecyclable material in excess of 70 feet high, which posed a danger if there was another fire or emergency on the plant. Abrams says the problem has worsened and must be tackled immediately.
The material is unsorted, and all types of combustibles, including hydrocarbon, are stored together. There is no separation of the heaps, which provide access and breaks in the case of fire. So it appears as if there's literally one large 4-acre heap on the site. In addition, there's literally no room at the facility to receive any more materials, yet the operations were continued up to a week ago. The factors mentioned at this facility are of grave concern to me as the Minister of Home Affairs, as well as the Chief Fire Officer, as a fire or even a rescue at the site as a result of collapse would be extremely challenging.
In other news, Parliament today reflected on the life and contribution of former Deputy Speaker of the House Joseph Joe Edgell, who died a year ago. But the man who now holds the Christchurch West Central constituency, represented by Edgell for more than a decade, Environment Minister Adrian Ford, made a desperate appeal to young men in the parish to put down their weapons on the heels of two separate shooting incidents on Monday.
I would want to repeat what Joe told me as a young man coming up. And I'm sure he would have told a lot of youngsters he was the representative. There is a wrong time to do the wrong thing. And that time is now. This is not the time to take up the weapons of destruction. That's what he would tell them. Instead, take up the tools of empowerment. If you are good at football, get involved in the sport and discipline. It's called a sport and discipline because that's what it teaches you. Discipline, hard work, selflessness, togetherness, the ability to care for one another. These are the things. Then he would have a conversation about conflict resolution. And these are the alternatives. So I am saying, let us pay tribute and homage on behalf of Joel by doing the right things.
Leader of Government Business Cynthia Bradshaw praised Edgell's hard work in his constituency and contribution to Barbados. She said he was a man of the people.
I think he recognized that he brought a lot of qualities to the table as a pharmacist, as somebody who was a community worker. But he also understood that he wanted to leave a legacy, which indeed he has gone on to do, because he is remembered as being that individual who got on the ground, who worked with the people, who inspired the people, who made sure that the community programs were executed well, who was not afraid to put his foot to the ground and make sure that he was on the front line with his constituents to be able to make the changes that were necessary in the constituency of Christchurch.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley praised Edgell's sacrifice and selflessness, but he told the House that if parliamentarians are to improve their work in their constituencies, government must increase its monthly stipend to MPs.
This parliamentary allocation which they give monthly to help you to represent constituents with your needs is a joke. It is a joke. And may I take this moment, no matter who is offended, to ask kindly that be by this government properly reconsidered, because it is a joke. It is gone before it comes. And it puts people like Joe Edgell in the position in which he found himself, not that he was unwilling, because the system does not provide the help you need to give to constituents. You have to fall back on your own resources. And then we hear mouths across this land talking about the amount of money that politicians are giving. That's foolishness. And because we use it as a tool to divide us one from another, the situation will be perpetuated, continue to remain.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
We now go to developments in Trinidad and Tobago. A University of the West Indies professor warns that the developing COVID-19 crisis will devastate the economy, and he tells citizens they should get vaccinated. Terry-Ann Brown-Campbell of TTT News has the story.
There is a huge possibility that the COVID-19 pandemic could not only result in a humanitarian crisis, but also an economic disaster. UWI Dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, Professor Terence Simangal, who was a guest on TTT's Now Morning show on Tuesday, described what a spiraling rise in the virus cases can produce.
There's not only the acute phase where you're in hospital using up services, but there's going to be a phase after that. And that's what we have to remember. So there's a huge cost to the health of the economy.
Yeah.
One also has to remember the effect on the economy of having huge numbers of people in hospital. That is a huge drain on the economy.
Professor Simangal said to avoid this possible spiraling of the virus, the population needs to get inoculated.
People who have underlying conditions of cardiac disease, hypertension, diabetes, etc., the so-called NCDs, are at great risk of having complications from COVID. These are the people who die, obesity, these are the people who die from COVID, have to go to the intensive care unit, have prolonged morbidity. So these are the people who need to definitely get vaccinated.
Further afield, Mexico will launch a full investigation into the cause of an overpass collapse that plunged a train on Mexico City's newest metro line onto a busy road below, killing at least 24 people and injuring dozens more.
Very tragic scenes around there. There's been one mother crying out, trying to find her 14-year-old son. And then the mayor announced they were suspending the rescue operation, the cleanup operations, because they were fearing a further collapse and more people being hurt, and various hospitals which are receiving people with some quite severe injuries. And these are hospitals that have been really hammered by the COVID pandemic over the last year, have been really worn out. And so this is one more tragedy, one more strain on their services.
Now, you mentioned there, Johan, that a car may have hit one of the support pillars of that overpass, but also the Line 12, which is the metro line that this accident has happened on. There had been a lot of complaints concerning its construction long before this accident.
There certainly has been, and there's a lot of controversy which is blowing up right away with this. This was an extension made under the Mayor Marcelo Ebrard in the 2006 to 2012 term. It was one of his real pet projects, and there was controversy about if he was really giving the right materials or cutting corners on costs there. In 2017, there was an earthquake, and there's been photos of some of the columns very badly damaged, so we'll see if they were really repaired.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.